Hey everyone, and welcome to another Konoha Reviews. Fighting games are a genre I don't usually tackle, and this will be the first proper fighting game that will be reviewed on the Konoha Reviews channel. In terms of fighting games, there's a large scale available with different gameplay types, from the weapon-based fighters like Soul Calibur to the faster-paced Dead or Alive series, or the highly technical series like Virtua Fighter or Street Fighter. But within this genre stood a series that started all the way back in the early 90s in the form of Mortal Kombat. Though that series had a really strong start, it had its share of stinkers along the way, mostly on the PS2 and original Xbox era, but has made its comeback with its more recent titles getting all the praise they deserve. Studio NetherRealm has also dealt in spin-offs using the same engine and somewhat mechanics for different titles. One of those series are the Injustice games, a fighting game with more DC superheroes than you can imagine, who all clash fists with each other in an intricate story about Superman losing his cool as he is tricked by the Joker in killing his pregnant wife and then setting up a strict fascist regime. It's basically a what-if story about what would happen if Superman turned evil. From the preview images that I saw online, I was a bit more triggered by Injustice 2 than I was with the first title, and so I jumped into the deep and actually started my baptism with Injustice 2 and see if I could make sense of it all. And the short answer is absolutely. It is an absolute gem of a game. First, let's talk about the single-player campaign, or the story mode in this case. I'm one of those weirdos who really likes to invest themselves in the story modes of fighting games, and I'm unfortunately often let down in that department by very underwhelming experiences. A good example is the recent Soul Calibur that tells its story through still images and loads of text, which is just dull and a boring experience. Not to mention, it kind of feels cheap. Games like Dead or Alive do have a story mode with cutscenes all throughout, but the story and cutscenes make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and it feels like you jump from arena to arena and they come up with weird excuses to have battles take place. Injustice 2, on the other hand, has some of the best produced, thrilling cutscenes I have ever seen in any fighting game, and also games in general. The cutscenes are sometimes quite long. The intro one, for example, is around 8 minutes, but they are made with such good care that you gladly sit through them. It also should be said that I don't mind long cutscenes at all. I think it's a great way of storytelling. The story of Injustice 2 continues after the events of Injustice 1, with the Joker being dead and Superman having been captured by Batman. Though it did feel like I missed quite some important narrative on past events in the first game, it did not take long for me to pick up the pieces and make sense of it all. What mostly will be vague if you jump right into the second part is who was fighting on which side in the first game. In Injustice 2, the story is told of Brainiac, who was responsible for the destruction of Krypton, and his goal to destroy Earth while conserving all the information gathered from that planet. Batman and his allies will be forced to work together with Superman again, and the story in and of itself is just an absolute joy, with new faces and characters getting introduced at a rapid rate. I would even say that this story and cinematics are better than most of the DC movies out there. It really feels awesome too to see some of the dynamics of the characters, since fan favorites like Harley Quinn are now working together with Batman after the Joker has left the building. I cannot say that I'm the biggest DC fan, and there were quite a bunch of superheroes I'd never heard of, including Blue Beetle, Black Canary, or Firestorm. But of course, classic characters like Catwoman, Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, and many, many more all get their time to shine and plenty of screen time. The story mode is divided up into chapters. In each chapter, you'll be given either one specific character to play or have the ability to choose between two fighters for the fights of that chapter. Each chapter has you partake in 4 fights, giving it a short arcade mode feel in terms of length that you fight with each character. The reason for each fight makes way more sense than some of the other story modes mentioned in a game like Dead or Alive, but even still, there are some moments when the fights do feel tagged on, or where the character in question doesn't move to a different location and you basically are watching a cutscene of the next challenge being introduced in the same arena. The Wonder Woman chapter is a great example of this, where you are in this bar area and you have to fight 2 or 3 opponents in that same location. It doesn't really move the story along all that well. Nevertheless, it is always exciting to see which new characters you get to be in each chapter, and there is not many times that it feels like filler. In the chapters where you do get to choose who you will fight as, the game even has slightly different cutscenes and dialogue, though the differences are quite minimum except for a choice near the end that does give you a big variation in the ending altogether. The story itself is also quite mature, with people visibly dying and sometimes in pretty gruesome ways too. It's not Mortal Kombat level, but throats are slit, people are vaporized or punctured with sharp weapons. It's definitely cool to showcase the DC universe in its more dark and adult tone that some of us wish. So the story mode of Injustice 2 gets an absolute A+. It is so good in fact that I cannot think of a single fighting game that does its story mode as well as this. Now bear in mind that I haven't played Mortal Kombat 11 or 10 yet, so I will definitely do so to see what NetherRealm has done with those. But for now, Injustice 2 has set the standard for me in terms of fighting story modes, and that standard is damn high. The fighting itself feels nice, though it's a bit sluggish compared to something like Dead or Alive, where moves really flow into each other well. It's all a bit blocky with Injustice, with quick jabs and kicks of a rather short distance, but that is of course also the style that was chosen for the Mortal Kombat series. It much more feels like a system where individual moves are linked in combos than a fluent combo where every move transitions naturally into each new movement. But of course, with the fact that you are playing as superheroes, some nice surprises are being brought to the table to this mechanically as well. If you play as Supergirl or Superman for example, you have abilities like Ice Breath or Laser Eyes to attack from a distance, and those characters also float the entire time. Green Arrow can of course shoot arrows from a distance, while others have abilities to buff their powers like Wonder Woman or Green Lantern. Like so many fighting games have nowadays, Injustice 2 also has a super move ability that when activated, a nice animated cutscene plays which showcases an attack that will do incredible amounts of damage. The way you get to do this super move is also quite conventional in that you have a bar at the bottom that slowly fills with damage received, and when it's full, you can unleash the attack at the right time. The bar, however, is also used on occasion when both fighters hit each other at the same time. When this occurs, the game slows down a bit and both fighters are asked if they want to sacrifice a part of the power bar in order to do extra damage or be healed for a bit. You can choose to only use 25%, 50%, 75%, or the entire bar, and whoever of the two has betted more of the bar wins. It's a neat little event that plays from time to time and creates some extra strategy since it gives you a chance to do quite a lot of damage, but decreases the chance of you getting your super move. The super moves themselves are really cool and spectacular, though can vary a bit in terms of quality and spectacle depending on the character. High-profile characters like Batman or Supergirl definitely have far more spectacular super moves than someone like Blue Beetle. A personal favorite of mine is the Flash super move, where he runs back in time and smashes his opponent in an unexpected eating T-Rex. Very funny. Besides the story mode, there's a whole lot of other modes, including well-developed tutorials and arcade style of single-player fighting. There's a lot to unlock, including different visuals for weapons and outfits, and those who want to play and unlock content well after the story mode can do so to their heart's content with this wonderful title. But as I said, I'm one of those weirdos who really focuses on the story mode, and in my opinion, that alone is absolutely worth the price. The story mode in and of itself takes about 4 to 5 hours, and through that you will be partaking in about 70 or so fights. Very decent in my opinion, since that is basically 7 to 8 arcade runs thrown into one awesome told story. If I had to nitpick, and I have some critique on the game, it's that some of the voice acting or writing is sometimes a bit off. Some of the one-liners are a bit cringy, and the delivery by some of the actors can be a bit stiff. Characters like Batman and Harley Quinn, though, really deliver, with their actual animation voice actors taking on the role in this story as well. In the end, Injustice 2 really blew me away with its cinematic presentation and storytelling in a fighting type of game. It really is, by all rights, the best experience I've had in a fighting game. Now, gameplay-wise, there might be others that feel more fluent and are a bit more fun to play like Tekken or Soul Calibur, but that is all gameplay and very little to no story. Those type of games get me hooked for a bit, but then I let them go real soon as well. With Injustice 2, I wanted to sit through it all the way to the end. I give Injustice 2 a 9. It has become the standard for fighting games in my eyes, and NetherRealm is the undisputed king when it comes to single-player fighting game experiences. Having experienced Injustice 2 really makes me excited to try out Mortal Kombat 10 and 11 as well, and will surely review those on this channel in the future too. I'm curious if those games will top this one, but what I've heard, Mortal Kombat 11 Story Mode also promises to deliver an unforgettable experience. Well done, NetherRealm. I salute you.